I knew something was off with my wife, Rachel, the second she started singing softly in the bathroom. 3 years into our marriage, and I'd never heard her do that, not once. But there she was, at 11:52 p.m. on a Wednesday, lathering up with that fancy lavender soap she'd splurged on for special moments, her voice carrying a melody like she'd just fallen in love with life. I was perched on the corner of our bed, watching steam curl out from under the door, a heavy knot forming in my gut. It was the kind of feeling you get when you realize everything you thought was solid is about to crumble. "You're still awake?" she called out, her tone too chipper, like she was hiding something. "Couldn't catch a wink," I replied, which wasn't a lie. Sleep had been dodging me ever since she started staying late at her job, fussing over her outfits and spinning stories about where she'd been. The shower cut off with a squeak. I stared down at the gray carpet under my boots. Durable, no nonsense. Picked by a guy who thought playing it safe was the way to go. My whole life was like that. Steady job repairing industrial fridges, modest house in a quiet suburb of Scottsdale, Arizona, and a wife who I thought was happy with our simple setup. Rachel stepped out, wrapped in a towel, her skin glowing from the hot water. She rummaged through her drawer and pulled out the red lingerie I'd gotten her for our second anniversary, still unworn, at least for me. "Got plans?" I asked, keeping my voice even. She paused just a beat, then flashed a quick laugh. "What? I can't feel pretty under my sweats? Is that a problem?" I've spent my life fixing things. Freezers, ducts, cracked skylights. I know the creak something makes right before it gives out. This was that creak. "Nah, no problem," I said softly. She dressed fast, dodging my gaze in the mirror, then slid into bed, sticking to her side like there was an ocean between us. I lay there until 2:30 a.m., listening to her steady breaths, wondering when she'd turned into someone I didn't know. Come morning, Rachel grabbed a travel mug she'd never touched before, glossy white with "Be Your Own Spark" in bold purple letters. She'd picked it up the day before, along with some new perfume that hit me from across the kitchen in our Tempe home. "Gotta stay late again," she said, eyes glued to her phone. "Fourth time this week. Greg's got us on a tight deadline." Greg Vance, her manager, some mid-level suit who'd brought her on 8 months ago and started texting her on Sundays. I nodded, leaned in to kiss her forehead, and tasted the dishonesty on her skin. She pulled back fast, like my touch stung. After she left, I sat at the table, sipping coffee from my old scratched mug, staring at the fridge. Our wedding photos were still up there. Me in a borrowed suit, her in a white dress, both of us young enough to think forever was a sure thing. I was 27 when we tied the knot, a reserved guy from a small family, the kind who got teased for sketching during recess. Rachel seemed to vibe with my dependability back then, calling me her anchor. Now she barely called me anything. That night I drove to a place called Rusty's Tavern on Main Street in Mesa. I don't drink much, but Rachel's phone was pinging there, thanks to the location app she forgot we shared after she got turned around in downtown Scottsdale 2 years back. The bar was trying too hard to be cool, wooden beams, neon signs for craft brews, a bartender with a goatee, and inked arms who looked like he'd never lifted anything heavier than a cocktail shaker. I grabbed a soda and parked myself in a corner booth, scanning the room. It didn't take long. Rachel strolled in at 8:45, wearing that sleek dress she said was too much for our usual spots. She moved with a confidence I'd never seen at home, like she was in her element. The bartender, name tag reading Kyle, lit up when he spotted her. He leaned over the counter, gave her a kiss. Not a quick hello, but one that said they'd been here before. My soda went flat on my tongue. I watched my wife of 3 years settle onto a stool, letting Kyle's hands linger on her hips. Watched her tilt her head back, laughing at whatever he murmured in her ear. I watched her become a stranger, a bouncer near the entrance, a stocky guy with a shaved head, caught me staring and elbowed his buddy. They smirked, sharing a low chuckle that said they'd seen this play out plenty of times. I set my drink down and walked out, their voices trailing behind me. Poor guy, never saw it coming. The drive back to Tempe felt endless. I gripped the wheel so hard my hands ached, trying to wrap my head around what I'd seen. My wife lying about work, kissing another man. When she got home at 12:30 a.m., her makeup smudged, hair a little messy, reeking of someone else's aftershave, I was on the couch. "How was the office?" I asked, calm as I could manage. "Rough," she said, smooth as ever. "Greg had us crunching data till 11. Grabbed a drink with Lisa to unwind." Lisa, her co-worker, who'd been posting beach pics from California all week. I'd seen them online. Sounds nice, I said. Glad you're enjoying yourself. She gave me a smile, the first real one in ages. Thanks, hun. You're a gem. She headed to the shower, humming again. I sat there in the dark, feeling something shift deep inside. The quiet kid who took crap in school without pushing back, who'd eaten every slight for 32 years, was still there. But something else was waking up, something sharp, ready to bite. The next morning, Rachel was all over the place, distracted, grinning at texts I couldn't read. Who's blowing up your phone? I asked casually. Just Lisa, she said. Her boyfriend's being a mess again. Lisa, who'd been single for years. How about we do something this weekend? I tried. Maybe hit the coast like old times? Her face tightened. Can't, she said. Greg's got this mandatory team retreat on Saturday. You know how these corporate gigs are. They don't care about days off. I nodded, drained my coffee, and let the silence settle. After Rachel left for the day, I dialed her office. The receptionist, chipper as always, told me there was no team retreat on the books and that Greg Vance was out of state visiting his kid at college. I hung up, my jaw tight, and felt the truth sink in like a stone. That night, I set up a new email on my phone and started keeping track of everything. I saved screenshots of her phone's location, snapped pictures of her new dresses, and wrote down every lie she'd fed me over the past few weeks. I told myself I just needed evidence before I could face her, but deep down, I knew I was gearing up for something bigger. 2 weeks later, I was in the garage fixing a busted furnace when I overheard Rachel on the phone upstairs. Our old house in Tempe carried voices through the vents. I can't keep this up, she whispered. My heart stopped. I set down my wrench and listened. Corey's starting to notice, she said. I know, babe, but he's not dumb. He'll piece it together soon. A long silence. Then what? No, I can't just walk out. We've got the house, joint accounts, and what do I tell my folks? Another pause. I inched closer to the stairs, my pulse hammering. Kyle, please, I need time to sort this out without ruining everything. Corey's a decent guy. He doesn't deserve to be crushed. My grip on the wrench tightened until my knuckles ached. A decent guy, like she was doing me a favor by lying to my face every day. I love you too, she murmured, but I can't just flip my life upside down. Give me a month, okay? Her footsteps moved toward the kitchen. I scrambled back to the furnace, but my hands were shaking too hard to work. I sat there surrounded by tools and grease, feeling a piece of me break. 10 minutes later, Rachel came down to the garage. You okay, hun? She asked, her voice dripping with fake worry. I looked up, really looked at her, saw the guilt flickering in her eyes, the way she stood like she was ready to bolt. I caught a whiff of Kyle's cologne clinging to her. Just worn out, I said, forcing the words out. She pecked my forehead and left. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there sketching in an old notebook, something I hadn't done since I was a kid, drawing jagged lines that matched the storm in my head. The old Corey would have planned a big talk, maybe begged for counseling. Not anymore. I was thinking bigger, plans that needed patience, plans that would make sure everyone knew what they'd done. I kept hearing the bouncer's laugh from Rusty's tavern, Kyle's smug grin as he kissed my wife, Rachel's voice treating me like a problem to solve. I'd spent my whole life being the nice guy, the one who got walked over, lied to, mocked. But nice guys, I was figuring out, always came in last, and Corey Hammond was done losing. The next day, I started hitting a gritty gym near the warehouse district in Chandler, Arizona, not Rachel's fancy yoga studio. It was a 24-hour spot where guys with busted noses showed you things you wouldn't learn at a chain gym. I told them I wanted to learn to fight. They asked why. Sick of being pushed around, I said. They got it. While Rachel was at work, which her phone's location showed was Kyle's place in Mesa. I was learning to throw a punch without shattering my wrist, to take a hit without crumpling, to turn my body into something that could back up my anger. But that was just the start. At night, I dug into research, surveillance apps, legal workarounds, financial tricks. I found out our shared laptop had been saving Rachel's passwords for months. Our home Wi-Fi logged every device that connected, and Arizona law was pretty lenient about monitoring your own stuff. I wasn't building a case for a divorce lawyer. This was personal. 3 weeks into my new routine, I got a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. I know what she's doing. Meet me at Brew Haven on Central Avenue, Tucson, 2 p.m. tomorrow. Come alone. M. I stared at the message, wondering who M was and how they got my number. The old Corey would have ignored it, deleted it. Instead, I typed back, I'll be there. The next day, I showed up at Brewhaven 10 minutes early, ordered a plain coffee, and grabbed a table in the back where I could see the door. Right at 2 p.m., a woman walked in, mid-30s, cropped blonde hair, wearing a denim jacket and boots. She scanned the place, spotted me, and headed over. "Corey?" she asked. I nodded. She sat down, sizing me up. "I'm Marla Kent," she said. "Kyle's ex, one of many." My coffee turned sour in my mouth. "What's this about?" I asked. "I've got something you need to see." She pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos. "Kyle's not as clever as he thinks. He keeps screenshots like they're medals." She showed me a text thread between Kyle and Rachel. My stomach churned. "Kyle, your husband called the bar looking for you. Told him you were out with friends." Rachel: "Nice one. He's getting nosy. Keeps asking about my hours." Kyle: "Time to cut him loose. Just leave." Rachel: "Not yet. I need to sort out the finances first. Plus, Corey's the type who might do something dumb if I just vanish." Kyle: "Like what?" "Guy's a doormat. Ran into him at a gas station last week. Couldn't even meet my eyes." Rachel's words echoed in my head. "Corey's not as weak as he looks." My hands trembled as I read the texts on Marla's phone. She swiped to another screenshot. Kyle: "Dug into your husband a bit. Guy's got some baggage. Depression, the works. His gym buddy says he's been pushed around his whole life." Rachel: "That's kind of sad. I almost feel sorry for him." Kyle: "Not sorry enough to stop seeing me though, right?" Rachel: "You're awful." "But no, not that sorry." I set the phone down slow, my vision blurring with anger. "There's more," Marla said softly, "but this should be enough to start." "Why show me this?" I asked, my voice tight. "Because Kyle pulled the same stunt on me," she said. "Different woman, same game. He targets married ones, says they're less likely to make a fuss." She paused, her eyes hard. "And because you deserve to know who you're really dealing with." I studied her for a long moment. "What's your angle?" "I want to see him crash and burn," she said flat out. "Both of them. But I need someone close to them, someone they don't see coming. They don't trust me, but they think you're no threat." I drained my coffee, letting her words sink in. The old Corey would have stormed home, begged Rachel to talk, tried to patch things up. That guy was long gone, buried under months of lies. "What's your plan?" I asked. Marla's smile was sharp, like a blade. "It'll mean becoming someone new. Can you handle that?" I thought of the bouncer's smirk at Rusty's, Kyle's cocky grin as he kissed my wife, Rachel's voice calling me decent while plotting her escape. "Yeah," I said. "I'm in." Over the next hour at Brewhaven in Tucson, Marla laid out her idea. It was clean, ruthless, and didn't break a single law. It would torch Kyle's reputation, end things between him and Rachel, and make sure everyone saw them for what they were. "The best part," Marla said, "is they'll do the damage themselves. We just set the stage." I listened, asked questions, and threw in a few tweaks. By the time we were done, I felt like a different man, someone who could size up a problem and handle it without being the nice guy. Someone who could play the long game and still smile. Someone who could win. When I got home to our place in Tempe, Rachel was in the kitchen, wearing that green dress I loved, the one that made her eyes pop. She'd cooked my favorite, steak with roasted potatoes and asparagus, candles flickering on the table. "What's all this?" I asked, genuinely thrown. "Can I treat my husband?" she said, brushing a kiss on my cheek. "We've been ships passing lately." I sat down watching her dish up the food. She was moving too fast, talking too much, like she was nervous. Something had her rattled. "How was work?" I asked. "Hectic," she said. "Greg's got us grinding on this big campaign." She sat across from me, barely touching her plate. "Actually, I wanted to talk about something." My gut clenched. Here it comes, I thought. "What's that?" "I've been thinking," she said. "Maybe we should try for a kid." My fork froze midair. A kid. "I know we said we'd wait, but I'm 31, Corey. Time's ticking. I think it'd bring us closer, you know?" I chewed slow, letting it sink in. A kid, while she was sneaking around with Kyle. The nerve of it almost made me laugh. "That's a big step," I said, careful. "I know," she said, grabbing my hand. Her palm was clammy. "But I've been mulling it over. I want to start now." "What's the rush?" I asked, leaning back. "I don't know," she said, squeezing my hand. "Maybe seeing Lisa with her boyfriend got me thinking. I want a real future with you, Corey." I love you. I looked into her eyes, saw the lie buried under panic. Something had spooked her, made her want to tie me down, keep me believing in us. All right, I said. Let's do it. Her smile lit up the room. Really? She jumped up, wrapped her arms around me, her face pressed against my neck. I held her, smelling Kyle's aftershave in her hair, and felt a cold calm settle in. Step one was done. She was right where I needed her. After dinner, Rachel was all over me, more intense than she'd been in months, like she had something to prove. I went along with it, letting her think she was in control, letting her believe she had me fooled. Later, as she slept, I lay awake, sketching out my next moves in my notebook, jagged lines turning into sharp angles. Tomorrow, phase 2 would kick off, where things would start unraveling for her. For now, I held her close, listening to her breathe, memorizing it. Soon she'd be someone else's mess, and Corey Hammond would be free. The next morning, Rachel was gone when I woke up. Not unusual. She'd been leaving early for work most days, but she'd left a note. At the doctor. Talk later. Love, R. A doctor's appointment. I checked our insurance online. No appointments, no claims. I called her office. She'd called in sick. I smirked. Her lies were getting sloppy. She was slipping. I spent the morning at the gym in Chandler, training with Vince, an old ex-fighter who'd taken me under his wing. He wasn't just teaching me how to throw a punch. He was showing me how to carry myself, how to stand tall. I sketched his moves in my notebook between sets, turning his lessons into lines I could study later. Vince was showing me how to stand tall, how to stare a guy down and let him know without saying a word that I wasn't someone to mess with. You've changed, he said, watching me hammer the heavy bag at the gym in Chandler. When you first walked in, you looked like an easy mark. Now, you've got an edge, like you could be trouble. Good, I said, landing a combo that would have flattened the old me. Vince nodded, but his eyes narrowed. Just know there's a difference between being ready to fight and hunting for one. Don't go picking battles you don't need. I paused, sweat dripping down my face. What if the battle's already at my door? He studied me for a long beat. Then you deal with it, but you deal with it smartly. Guys like you, who've been kicked around forever, sometimes swing too hard when they finally swing back. Don't be that guy. I nodded, but my mind was on Rachel's lies, Kyle's smug grin, the bouncer's laugh at Rusty's. Maybe swinging too hard was exactly what this called for. That afternoon, I drove to a dive bar called the Copper Mug in Mesa, not to drink, but to watch. I parked across the street and waited. At 3:00 p.m., Rachel's car rolled up. She got out, checked her makeup in the side mirror, and strutted inside. I gave it 10 minutes, then followed. She was at the bar, cozying up to Kyle, her hand resting on his arm, both of them chuckling over something. I grabbed a soda and slid into a booth where I could keep an eye on them. I saw Kyle lean in, whisper something that made her cheeks flush. She glanced around, making sure no one was watching, then gave him a quick kiss. I pulled out my phone and hit record. 20 minutes later, they left together. I tailed them to a rundown motel on the outskirts of Tempe, the kind of place that takes cash and doesn't ask for ID. They slipped into room 142. I drove home, my hands steady on the wheel. That night, Rachel came home with a story about visiting her cousin, who lived in Oregon and hadn't been in Arizona in years. She was getting sloppy, or maybe she just didn't care anymore. How was your day? She asked, pecking my cheek. Productive, I said, keeping it short. She headed for the shower, and I uploaded the video to my laptop. I had hours of footage now, piles of screenshots, and a timeline of their affair detailed enough to bury them. But I wasn't ready to make my move. I wanted them to get cocky, to slip up even more. The next week, I kicked phase 2 into gear. I started small, canceled Rachel's yoga studio membership, changed the password on our streaming account, shifted a few bucks from our joint, checking to my personal savings. Nothing big, just enough to throw her off. At the same time, I started planting doubts about Kyle. I'd done my homework. Kyle had a rap sheet, petty theft from old jobs, a habit of chasing married women, a reputation as a lowlife. It wasn't hard to find people he'd screwed over. I dropped an anonymous tip to the manager at the Copper Mug, mentioning I'd heard Kyle was pocketing cash from the till, tossing in just enough specifics to make it stick. Then I waited. Within days, Kyle's shifts got cut, and the boss was watching him like a hawk, writing him up for every little thing. The heat was on. Rachel, meanwhile, was unraveling. The little annoyances were piling up. Her card declined at the market, her favorite shows vanished from our streaming queue, and the front door lock kept jamming with her key. I think someone's hacking our accounts, she said one night, pacing our kitchen in Tempe. That's odd, I said, sipping my coffee. Everything's fine on my end. Maybe we should update our passwords. Good call, she said. I'll handle it. I changed them all right, to stuff like Deceiver 789 and Betrayer 321. She was too wrapped up in her affair to notice. 2 weeks later, I was grabbing coffee with Marla at Brew Haven in Tucson when she slid her phone across the table. Kyle's getting antsy, she said. Check this out. The texts were from last night. Kyle, I need cash, fast. My boss is all over me about the register. Rachel, how much? Kyle, $5,000, just till I land a new gig. Rachel, I can't pull that from our account. Corey'll notice. Kyle, then ditch him already. We've been planning this forever. Rachel, it's not that easy. He's been acting strange, asking questions. Kyle, so what? The guy's a nobody. What's he gonna do, sulk? Rachel, you don't know him like I do. He's not as soft as he seems. Kyle, babe, I met him. He's exactly as soft as he seems. That cold knot in my chest tightened. When did Kyle meet me? I asked. 2 weeks back, Marla said. At a gas station on Desert Bloom Road. You were grabbing coffee. I remembered. A guy in a denim jacket bumped into me at the counter, said sorry, called me man, even picked up my spilled change. I thought he was just being nice. He was scoping you out, Marla said, checking if you were a threat. Guess what? He decided you're a pushover, that Rachel could walk all over you and you'd just take it. I stared at her phone, feeling something sharp and ugly clawing inside me. What else? She swiped to another screenshot. Kyle, I'm telling you, the guy's a joke. When I bumped him, he said, my bad. I hit him and he apologized. That's your husband, Rachel. Still, I gotta be careful. Kyle, or you could just tell him you're done. What's the worst he could do? Rachel, you don't get it. Corey's the type who might do something reckless if he's backed into a corner. Kyle, like what? Try to fight me? I'd snap him like a twig. I looked up at Marla. I want him to choke on those words. Easy, she said. That's what he wants. A big showdown where he gets to play tough guy. We don't give him that. We let him implode. Kyle's got a short fuse. All we do is push the right buttons. Over the next hour at Brew Haven in Tucson, Marla and I hammered out the details of our plan. It was bold, but it would hit Kyle where it hurt. When it was over, everyone would see him for the dirtbag he was. That night, I got back to our house in Tempe and found Rachel curled up on the couch, tears streaming down her face. Real ones, not the crocodile tears she'd been faking lately. What's wrong? I asked, sitting next to her, keeping my voice steady. I screwed up, she said, staring at the floor. My pulse froze. Screwed up how? I've been seeing someone else, she said, her voice breaking. There it was, the confession I'd been waiting for. I felt an odd calm settle over me. Who? I asked. Some guy I met through Greg's circle. Not at work exactly. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks. It wasn't planned. It just happened. How long? 3 months, maybe 4. I lost track. I knew she was lying. It was closer to 6, but I could tell she didn't plan this mess. Rachel wasn't a mastermind. She just got in over her head. Do you love him? I asked, keeping my tone flat. I thought I did, she said. But now, I'm not sure. He's not who I thought. Pushy, always wanting more, telling me to leave you like it's nothing. I almost snorted. Leave me? After talking about babies and a future she didn't mean? What do you want now? I asked. I want to end it with him, she said, finally meeting my eyes, hers red and raw. I want to fix us. Can you forgive me, Corey? I looked at her, saw the fear, the guilt, the desperate hope I'd be the same old pushover who'd let it slide. I need time to think, I said. How much time? I don't know, Rachel. This is heavy. You lied to me for months, made me feel like I was losing my mind. I know I messed up, she said, but I love you, always have. I stood up. I'm crashing at a hotel tonight. We'll talk tomorrow. Corey, please, she begged. Tomorrow, I said, firm. I need space. I packed a bag while she watched from the bedroom doorway, tears still falling. I'm so sorry, she said, grabbing my arm. I'll do anything to make this right. I looked at her hand, then at her. I'll call you tomorrow. I drove to a hotel in Scottsdale, checked in, and called Marla from my room. She spilled, I told her. How much? Enough. She's scared. I think Kyle's leaning on her to ditch me. Perfect, Marla said. He's desperate. Ready for phase 3? I stared out at the city lights twinkling below. Somewhere out there, Kyle was probably gloating, thinking he'd won my wife without a fight. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. The next morning, I didn't call Rachel. I hit the gym in Chandler instead, pushing harder than ever, sketching out my next moves between sets, sharp lines forming a plan in my notebook. Then I drove to the Copper Mug in Mesa, timing it so I'd catch Kyle starting his shift. He looked startled when he saw me. Hey, man, he said, forcing a grin. Didn't expect you here. We need to talk, I said, keeping my voice low. His face went blank, like he was bracing himself. About what? My wife. The bar was quiet, just a few regulars sipping drinks and watching a game. Kyle glanced around, then nodded toward the back. Let's take it outside. We stepped into the alley behind the bar, the air thick with the smell of garbage. Kyle lit a cigarette, his hands steady, playing it cool. I had to give him credit for the act. So, he said, exhaling smoke. She told you. Enough, I said. Look, I'm not going to say sorry, he said. This stuff happens. But I'll tell you this. She came to me, not the other way around. My muscles tightened, the ones I'd been building for months. That's supposed to make it okay? It's supposed to make you see it's not personal. Your wife was restless. I was there. Simple as that. Simple, I repeated, stepping closer. Yeah, don't take it so hard, he said, smirking. Happens to guys like you all the time. Nice guys, always playing it safe. Women get bored, need a spark, something to make them feel alive. And you gave her that spark, I said, my voice cold. I made her feel wanted, he shot back. When's the last time you did? I took another step. Kyle didn't flinch, but I saw his eyes sizing me up. He was taller, probably tougher, used to bar brawls, but he was cocky, and that was his mistake. Stay away from her, I said. He laughed, a sharp bark. Or what? You gonna take a swing, little man? I've tossed out guys twice your size. I'm not here to fight, I said, holding his gaze. Then why are you here? I gave him a smile, cold and hard, one I'd practiced in my sketches. To give you a chance to do what's right. Right? He flicked his cigarette into a dumpster. The right thing is you accepting she doesn't want you anymore. Man up and let her go. She's not leaving me. She will, he said. Maybe not today, but soon. She's tasted something better, and they don't go back. That last piece of the old me, the part that still wanted to talk it out, take the high road, crumbled to dust. You're right, I said. She might leave, but first I'm making sure everyone knows exactly who she's leaving me for. Kyle's smirk flickered. What's that mean? I know about the cash you've been skimming from the bar. I know about the other married women you've been chasing. I know about the Warren in Texas. His face went pale. You don't know, Jack. I know enough, I said, and by tomorrow, so will everyone else. I turned to walk away. Kyle grabbed my shoulder. You threatening me? I looked at his hand, then his face. I'm promising you. His grip tightened, but 3 months with Vince had taught me more than punches. I'd learned to read a guy's moves, to use his own momentum against him. Kyle's grip was all the opening I needed. I grabbed Kyle's wrist, yanked it off my shoulder, and stepped in close, throwing him off balance. He stumbled, caught off guard, and I drove my knee into his gut. Kyle doubled over, gasping. I gripped the back of his head and brought it down to meet my knee. Not hard enough to break anything, just enough to send a message. He crumpled to his knees, blood dripping from his nose. Next time, I said, voice low, keep your hands off. I walked away, leaving him in the alley behind the Copper Mug in Mesa, a rush hitting me I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I felt like I was in control. That afternoon, I called Rachel. I've been thinking about what you said, I told her, keeping my tone even, about fixing things. Her voice lit up with hope. I want to try, Corey, but I need to know it's done with him. Completely done. It is, she swore. I promise. Good, I said. I've got an idea for moving forward. Meet me at Bella Vita in Scottsdale, 7 out a night. We'll talk there. Bella Vita was where we had our first date. She'd see it as a sweet gesture, not the public stage I'd picked for what was coming. Okay, she said. I'll be there. I hung up and dialed Marla. Tonight's the night, I told her. Are you sure you're ready? More than ready, I said, sketching the restaurant's layout in my notebook, mapping every exit and table. I got to Bella Vita early, cleaned up and wore my best jacket, looking like a guy trying to save his marriage. The host sat me at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. Rachel showed up 10 minutes late, wearing the navy dress from our last anniversary, looking nervous but hopeful. I stood, pulled out her chair, ordered a bottle of wine, and played the devoted husband to a T. "You look great," I said, smiling. "Thanks," she said, her smile shaky. "You're not looking bad yourself." Her eyes held uncertainty. "So, what's this about?" "Us," I said, "our future, and how we handle this mess." "I told you it's over with him," she said. "I want us to work." I nodded, swirling my wine. "I hear you, but I need to know you get what you're walking away from. Sounds like you were pretty deep in with him." Her face paled. "What do you mean?" I set my phone on the table. "I'm talking about the motel, the cash you've been stashing, the plans you two cooked up." I leaned in. "I know about the baby talk, how you thought it'd keep me distracted while you figured out how to bail." Her hands shook. "How do you—" "I know everything, Rachel. Every single thing." She glanced around the restaurant, noticing the other diners who might overhear. "Can we not do this here?" she whispered. "Where then? Kyle's place?" "Oh, wait, he got evicted last week." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" "Kyle's hit some rough patches," I said. "Lost his gig at the Copper Mug. Something about skimming cash. His landlord found out about that warrant in Nevada." Her jaw dropped. "You did this." "I didn't do a thing," I said. "Just made sure the right people got the right info." Her shock turned to anger. "You ruined his life." "I didn't ruin anything," I said. "I just stopped shielding him from his own screw-ups. He needed that job? Should have thought twice before messing with another man's wife." She stood, chair scraping. "I'm out of here." "Sit," I said, my voice calm but sharp, carrying a weight she'd never heard from me. She froze, then sat. "We're not done," I said, tapping my phone. A video started. Rachel and Kyle walking into that motel, timestamped 2 weeks ago. "Turn it off," she hissed. "This is just a teaser," I said. "I've got hours of video, photos, screenshots of your texts, a full record of your affair." She glanced around again. An older couple nearby was pretending not to listen. The waiter lingered, sensing trouble. "What do you want?" she asked, voice low. "I want you to get something," I said. "For 6 months, you've treated me like I'm clueless, like I'm some sad sap who deserves this. But here's the truth, Rachel. I'm not clueless, and I'm not a sap. I'm not the guy you married anymore." I leaned closer, dropping my voice. "I know about the fake pregnancy test. I know about the credit card you opened in my name. I know about the burner phone in your gym bag." Her face went ghost white. "How?" "Because I've been watching," I said. "Learning. Planning. While you thought you were playing me, I was playing a bigger game." "What game?" she asked, voice trembling. I smiled, sketching a quick line in my head, a sharp, final stroke. I stood up from the table at Bella Vita, tossed a 20 down, and walked out. Rachel's voice followed me, calling my name, but I didn't look back. Phase 3 was done. The next morning, I woke up in my hotel room in Scottsdale to 19 missed calls from Rachel. I ignored everyone and headed to the gym in Chandler. Vince was there, eyeing me as I walked in. "You look different," he said, "like you took care of business." "I'm handling it," I said, hitting the heavy bag. "Just don't go overboard," he warned. "I won't," I said. But as my fist slammed into the bag, I wasn't so sure. The old Corey, the one who'd have stopped at confronting his cheating wife and ruining her boyfriend, was gone. The new Corey wanted more. That afternoon, I met Marla at a diner in Tucson called Sunnybrew. "How'd she take it?" Marla asked, sipping her coffee. "About like you'd expect," I said. "She's rattled." "Good," Marla said. "Scared people slip up." "What about Kyle?" "He's been blowing up my phone since he got canned," she said. "I want to know if I had a hand in it. I told him to ask your wife's husband." I laughed, sharp and cold. "How'd he take that?" "Like you'd think. Lots of big talk, threats, saying what he'll do when he tracks you down." "He knows where I live," I said. "That's what we're banking on." We spent the next hour fine-tuning the final phase of our plan. It was dicey, hinging on Kyle doing exactly what we predicted. But I'd been studying him for months, and I knew how his mind worked. That evening, I drove back to our house in Tempe for the first time in 3 days. Rachel's car was in the driveway, the lights glowing inside. She was waiting. I found her in the kitchen, sitting at the table, a cold mug of coffee in front of her. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her eyes puffy and raw. "We need to talk," she said, voice shaky. "I think we've said enough," I replied, pouring myself a glass of water and leaning against the counter. "Corey, please," she said. "I know you're mad. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this." "Fix it how?" I asked. We could try therapy, she said. I'll quit my job, get away from all this. We can start fresh. Start fresh, I echoed, my voice flat. Just like that. It won't be easy, she said. It'll take time to rebuild trust. But we love each other. I looked at her, saw the desperation holding her together, the way she was fighting to keep it from falling apart. 3 days ago, I might have felt a pang of pity. You know the worst part? I said. What? It's not the cheating or the lies. It's how you looked at me while you did it. Like I was nothing. Like I wasn't even worth covering your tracks for. That's not true, she said, her voice cracking. You called me a decent guy while you were planning to walk out, I said. You talked about not wanting to humiliate me while you were sneaking off to motels with him. You and your boyfriend discussed my headspace like I was a problem to fix. Her face crumpled. How do you know? I know everything, Rachel, I said. Stuff you forgot you said. Stuff you thought no one would ever dig up. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I never meant for this to happen. But it did, I said, and now we deal with the fallout. What fallout? I set down my glass. I want a divorce. The words hit her like a punch. No, Corey, we can work through this, she pleaded. I'll do anything. It's too late, I said. It's not, she insisted. People get through this stuff all the time. Maybe, I said, but I don't want to. I'm not spending the next decade wondering if you're lying, checking your phone, tracking your car, stressing every time you're late. You won't have to, she said. I'll be an open book. Passwords, my phone, whatever you want. I don't want that life, I said. I don't want to be the guy who has to spy on his wife to feel safe. She broke down then, sobbing hard, her whole body shaking. Please don't do this, she begged. I love you. You love the idea of me, I said. The safe guy you come home to. But you don't love me. That's not true, she said. Then why'd you cheat? She wiped her eyes. I was bored. I was dumb. It was a mistake. For 6 months, and I said, you made that mistake every day for 6 months. I walked to the table and sat across from her. It's not over yet, I said. What do you mean? Kyle's not going to just vanish. He'll want you back. And when he hears you're trying to save this marriage, he's going to lose it. I can handle Kyle, she said, but her voice wavered. Can you? I asked. Because from what I've seen, he doesn't take no for an answer. She swallowed hard. What are you saying? I'm saying you better hope he doesn't show up here tonight. Things could get messy fast. Right on cue, a loud bang came from the front door. Not a knock, but a kick. Rachel flinched. Another bang. Then Kyle's voice slurred and furious. Open the damn door, Rachel! Oh God, she whispered. He's drunk. I stood calm as ever. Stay here. Corey, don't, she said. He's trouble when he's like this. I'm counting on it, I said. I walked to the door, glanced through the peephole. Kyle was swaying on the porch, a beer bottle in his hand, his face a wreck, nose swollen from our alley run-in, eyes red from drinking. I know you're in there, he yelled. Both of you, come out and face me. I unlocked the door and opened it. Kyle stumbled back, caught off guard. There you are, he slurred. The loser himself. You're drunk, I said. Go home. Ain't got a home anymore, thanks to you, he spat. Lost my job, my place, all because you couldn't handle your wife wanting something better. Rachel doesn't want you here, I said, standing firm in the doorway. Kyle laughed, a bitter edge to it. That's not what she was saying last night. She was begging me to run off with her. Rachel appeared behind me, her voice shaky. That's a lie, she said. Is it? Kyle sneered, scrolling through his phone. Want me to read it out loud? I can't stand being around him. He makes me sick. I dream about leaving with you. Rachel's face drained of color. I never said that. That's from 3 days ago. Want the screenshot? Kyle taunted. I held out my hand. Show me the phone. Go to hell, he spat. Hand it over, Kyle, I said, stepping closer. Or what? You'll hit me again? I'm not some drunk idiot in an alley this time. He dropped his beer bottle, letting it shatter on the porch, and squared up, reeking of booze and rage. This was exactly what I'd planned for. Think you're a tough guy now? Kyle said. One lucky shot doesn't make you a man. I've been scrapping since I was a kid. I'll crush you. Maybe, I said, but you're drunk, on my property, threatening my wife. Your wife, he mocked. She's mine. Has been for months. Kyle, stop, Rachel pleaded. Just leave. I'm not going anywhere without you, he said, looking past me. We talked about this, babe. You said you were done with him. That was before, she said. Before what? Before he found out? Who cares? Let's go. She's not going with you, I said, my voice steady. Kyle's eyes snapped back to me. And you're gonna stop me? He swung a wild haymaker I saw coming a mile away. I ducked, stepped inside his reach, and slammed my elbow into his ribs. He grunted, staggered, and I followed with a knee to his thigh. He crumpled, leg giving out. Stay down, I said, breathing easy. But Kyle was scrambling up, face twisted with anger and shame. You got lucky, you... He charged, head low like a charging bull. I sidestepped, grabbed his jacket, and used his momentum to sling him into the porch railing. It cracked under his weight. Kyle hit the ground groaning, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. Done yet? I asked. He rolled over, glaring. This ain't over. Yeah, it is, I said, holding up my phone, the screen showing it was recording. I've got you drunk, on my property, threatening us, taking swings. That's assault, trespassing, harassment. Want me to call the cops or you walking away? Kyle stared at the phone, his drunk brain catching up. He was cornered. This ain't over, he mumbled, but the fire was gone. It's over, I said. Don't come back. Don't call her. Don't text her. Don't even look her way. If I catch you near her, you're done. He dragged himself up, leaning on the broken railing. She doesn't love you, he said. She told me. I don't care what she told you, I said. I care what I'm telling you. Get lost. Kyle glared at Rachel. Tell him you want to come with me. She was crying, shaking her head. I can't, she said. I'm sorry. Something broke in his eyes. You lying? Watch it, I cut in, voice low. He looked at me, then her, then stumbled down the steps and vanished into the night. I watched until I was sure he was gone, then went back inside our Tempe house. Rachel was on the couch, trembling. Is he gone? She asked. Yeah, I said. What if he comes back? He won't, I said. He knows he's beat. We sat in silence, the air heavy. Finally, she spoke. You were incredible out there, she said. I've never seen you like that. Like what? Strong, in charge. I looked at her. That what it takes for you to see me as a man. Beating up your boyfriend? He wasn't my boyfriend, she said. Not really. Then what was he? A mistake, she said. A stupid, awful mistake. I stood. I need to grab some stuff. Where are you going? Hotel, I said. I told you, I want a divorce. But you just fought for me, she said. You protected me. I protected my home, I said. Big difference. She watched me head for the stairs. Corey, she called. I stopped. What? I'm sorry, she said, for everything. I looked back at her, my wife of 3 years, sitting in the house we'd bought, crying over a bartender who'd used her and tossed her aside. I know, I said, but sorry doesn't fix this. 2 weeks later, I was in a lawyer's office in Scottsdale, signing divorce papers. Rachel didn't fight me on anything. She'd keep the house. I didn't want it anymore. I sketched a final line in my notebook that night, closing the chapter. Rachel could keep the house, most of the furniture, the joint accounts, even the car. All I wanted was my freedom. You're being awfully generous, my lawyer said, eyeing me across his desk in Scottsdale. You sure about this? Dead sure, I said. I'd already moved into a new apartment in Gilbert, Arizona, decked it out with fresh stuff, new bed, new couch, new plates. I didn't want a single thing tying me to the past. The lawyer stacked the papers. This'll be finalized in about 30 days. You'll be a free man by month's end. Good, I said, walking out of the office feeling lighter than I had in years. On the sidewalk, I pulled out my phone and called Marla. It's done, I told her. How's it feel? Like I can finally breathe. Want to grab a drink to celebrate? She asked. I know a spot. I chuckled. Not the copper mug, I hope. Heck no, she said. That place shut down last week. Turns out Kyle wasn't the only one dipping into the till. What happened to him? Word is he skipped town, she said. Owes money to some rough types. I felt a quick flash of satisfaction. Kyle had unraveled just as we'd planned. All I'd done was hand him the rope. So about that drink, Marla pressed. Rain check, I said. Got plans. Hot date or something? She teased. I just laughed and hung up. I drove to the gym in Chandler, where Vince was waiting. Heard your divorce went through, he said, tossing me a towel. News spreads fast, I said. Small town. He grinned. You holding up okay? I caught my reflection in the gym's mirror. 3 months back, I'd been a shadow of a man. Soft, passive, the kind of guy people walked over. Now, I saw someone who could stand his ground. I'm good, I said. Better than good. What's next for you? Vince asked. I smiled. Whatever I want. As I worked the heavy bag, I thought about what lay ahead, sketching it out in my mind like a blueprint. Clean lines, open spaces, no limits. For the first time in years, the future felt like mine to shape. I was 32 in the best shape of my life, answering to no one but myself. Rachel could have her predictable life. Kyle could have his debts and regrets. I was done with them both, ready to figure out who Corey Hammond really was when no one was holding him back. 3 months later, I was sipping coffee at a new spot called Desert Brew in downtown Mesa when I saw her. Rachel sitting alone at a corner table, staring at her phone. She looked worn out, like the fire that had drawn me to her years ago had burned out. She glanced up, caught me watching. For a moment, we just locked eyes across the cafe. Then she stood and walked over. "Hey," she said, voice soft. "Hey," I said. "Can I sit?" I nodded at the empty chair. "Free country." She sat, fiddling with her coffee mug. "You look good," she said. "Different." "Thanks," I said. "Heard you got a promotion at work." "Word gets around," I said. "Small town." She hesitated. "I also heard you're seeing someone." I didn't answer. It was true. I'd been dating a librarian named Jenna for a month. She didn't know my past, saw me for the man I was now, not the one I used to be. "I miss you," Rachel said, barely above a whisper. "Every day." I studied her face. "I know I don't have any right to say that, but it's true." "How's Kyle?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She flinched. "I don't know. Haven't talked to him since that night at the house." "Probably for the best," I said. "Corey," she said, "I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to hear this. What I had with him, it wasn't real. It was just a stupid escape. I was restless and he made me feel alive, but it wasn't love. What we had was real, solid. I was just too dumb to see it." I finished my coffee, setting the cup down. "You're right about one thing," I said. "I won't forgive you. Not because I'm holding on to anger," I said, "but because there's nothing left to forgive. You made your choice. I made mine. Now we both live with it." Rachel started to speak, but I cut her off. "No," I said, standing. "I don't think we should try again. I don't think we're meant for each other. Honestly, I don't think about you anymore." That wasn't entirely true, but it was close enough. 6 months ago, I couldn't have imagined moving on like this. "I gotta go," I said. Rachel nodded, tears welling up. "Take care of yourself, Corey." "Always do," I said, walking out into the bright Mesa afternoon. My phone buzzed. Jenna, asking if I was up for dinner. I texted back, "Yeah, sounds good," then slid the phone into my pocket and got in my car. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of Rachel still at the cafe table, crying into her coffee. Once, that would have torn me up. Now it just reminded me how far I'd come. I'd learned the hard way that dignity isn't something you're born with or handed by others. It's something you build, piece by piece, choice by choice. And once you've got it, nobody can take it away. 6 months after the divorce was final, Marla called me. "Guess who's back in town?" she said. "Don't much care," I replied, sketching a new design in my notebook, a clean, open layout for my future. "Kyle," she said. "He's telling anyone who'll listen that you set him up, ruined his life." I paused, pencil hovering. "Is he looking for trouble?" "Hard to tell," she said. "He's been drinking hard, dropping maybe 30 pounds. Looks rough." "Where's he holed up?" "That motel off Route 60 in Tempe, the same one he used to take Rachel to." That old cold knot tightened in my chest. "Thanks for the tip," I said. "Are you doing anything about it?" "Finishing what we started," I said. That night I drove to the motel. I found Kyle's room and knocked. It took a while, but he finally opened the door, looking like Marla said, gaunt, eyes hollow, a shadow of the cocky guy he'd been. "Well, look who it is," he slurred. "The genius himself." "We need to talk," I said. "Nothing to say," he shot back. "You got what you wanted." "You lost everything because you're a crook and a liar," I said. "I just made sure people saw it." He laughed, a bitter rasp. "Think you're clever? Think you won?" "I did," I said. "Really?" he sneered. "You lost your wife, your house, your whole life. That's winning?" I stepped into the room. It was a dump. Stained carpet, busted chair, reeking of defeat. "I lost things I thought I needed," I said. "Turns out I was wrong about what I needed." "And what do you need now?" "To make sure you get this," I said. "You're done here. This town, these people, they're not yours anymore. Time to move on." "Or what?" he said. "You'll ruin me again." "Kyle, look at yourself," I said. "You're already ruined. I'm giving you a chance to start over somewhere else. He sank onto the bed, looking drained. You don't know what you did to me. I know exactly what I did, I said. I held up a mirror and made sure everyone saw the real you. I loved her, he said. No, you didn't, I said. You loved the rush of stealing something that wasn't yours, the thrill of sneaking around, but you didn't love Rachel. He looked up. And you did. I thought about it. I thought I did. But love doesn't survive what she did, what you both did. So we all lost, he said. No, I said. You and Rachel lost. I won. How's that? I glanced around the room one last time. Because I'm not here anymore. I'm somewhere better. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. There's a bus to Denver at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Be on it. And if I'm not? I looked back. We'll have this talk again, and it won't be this civil. The next morning, I drove by the bus station in Tempe. Through the window, I saw Kyle slumped in the back row, staring out as the town faded behind him. The bus rolled out right at 10 a.m. I never saw him again. That afternoon, I met Jenna for lunch at a diner in Gilbert. She was talking about her students, a field trip she was planning, her weekend ideas, normal stuff, good stuff, stuff that had nothing to do with betrayal or revenge. You're quiet today, she said, tilting her head. Just thinking, I said. About what? I looked at her, really looked. Jenna wasn't like Rachel. She was honest, steady, happy with the small things. She didn't need drama to feel alive. About how different my life is now, I said. Different how? Better, I said. Way better. She smiled. Good or bad? The best kind, I said. That night, I stood on the balcony of my apartment in Gilbert, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Rachel was probably in our old house, wondering where it all went wrong. Somewhere else, Kyle was on a bus to nowhere, running from his own mistakes. And here I was, 32 years old, free for the first time, with a future that was all mine. I thought about the guy I used to be, quiet, passive, scared of rocking the boat. That guy was gone, like he'd never existed. In his place was someone tougher, someone who knew respect wasn't handed out, it was earned, someone who'd never be anyone's doormat again. I smiled, sketching one last line in my mind, a bold, clean stroke for a new chapter, and went inside. Tomorrow was wide open, and I had plans to make.